Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
You know, yesterday I had on a couple of 911 calls that had been sent to me. Now, here is one that I think is my absolute favorite. The dispatcher says, 911, what's the nature of your emergency? The caller says, my wife is pregnant and her contractions are only 2 minutes apart. The dispatcher says, is this her first child? And the caller says, no, you idiot, this is her husband. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Call in. Have a good day. Oh, thank you very much, and welcome to a Wednesday. And this is Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call 734-6969 and get rid of your garbage. Right now, let's go over and see who's going to give the Pledge of Allegiance this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb and listeners.
How are you?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, I really think you did an outstanding job. Please call us back and do that in the future for us, would you?
Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. That was very, very well done. Hey, by the way, right now, let's go to the weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And the number to call, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. They can help you with all your carpet and flooring and your tile and your kitchen construction and your home decor items. And they have a little slogan on Wednesdays, we can do it Wednesdays. You can really spruce up your home, whatever you need to make your house a home, at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Here now is the weather.
Here's your weather for this Wednesday, November 4th. Looking at cloudy skies for today. It is going to be a little bit on the breezy side. Winds out of the west right around 11 miles an hour. Expect a high of 37 for today. Tonight, low of 26. Kind of feels like winter has arrived. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, high of 41 with an overnight low of 27. Friday, pretty much the same. And then hopefully for Saturday, going to see some sunshine and a high of 48. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, very well done. Always is. Thank you, Gina. And brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. As I say, look for the blue door. Oh, we've got a lot of things to take care of this morning, the day after elections, and I just want to encompass everybody into this. Congratulations to the election winners. Congratulations to Mike Brown retaining his seat as mayor of Rupert, and congratulations to the incumbents in the Burley City Council races. And to all the winners, congratulations. And to those that tried but fell a little bit short, hey, don't give up. And we do appreciate your involvement in politics, and I certainly hope you're an inspiration for you to run again and others to run again. Thank you very, very much for your time and effort. Got a couple of notes here I need to get on, and this is very, very important. The Relay for Life, and Tim stopped over and visited with us the other day. The Relay for Life fall kickoff is going to be open to the public, and come see what Relay for Life is all about. It's going to be at Maury's Convention Center on November 14th, coming up in just a matter of days. And it's an open house from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Sign up for the relay today and be entered for a prize. And this is really something because it's just absolutely slapping cancer in the face with all the funds that are generated. Relay for Life Fall Kickoff, open to the public, Maury's Convention Center, November 14th at 10 a.m. starting time. Be there, please, at Maury's Convention Center. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I've been very pleased to announce that the Relay for Life has asked me to be a part of it again this year, and I'm very honored by that. Thank you, Tim, and everybody else. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. My goodness, they've got all your heating needs. And I almost said, and also air conditioning, but right now, with the temperature, what is the temperature outside right now? Wheels, what's the temperature over there currently? Do you have that?
Can I look on my phone real quick?
Well, you know what? I got to be honest with you. I looked at mine real quick. It's freezing, 32 degrees right now. 32, thank you. And I'm not going to mention air conditioning today with the high right now, 32. But they've got all your heating needs, and they've got all your furnace filters to make sure your furnace is going to run efficiently. Don't forget they're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And the number to call, 678-0459. They open the doors at 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric. You know, we've got so reliant on those smartphones. The old thermometer outside the window, very seldom ever looked at. Anyway, also I want to mention to you about Denny's Restaurant, and they're located at 611 Overland in Burley. And I talked to Thomas yesterday, and we're getting ready for a big, and I want to underline this, big Christmas extravaganza. This is going to be a fun deal, and starting next week, I will have all the information for you. You do not want to miss the Denny's Christmas extravaganza. It's going to be outstanding. You can stop into Denny's anytime for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All the menu items are fantastic. 611 Overland in Burley, and also 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. And tomorrow, we're going to be announcing the game of the week in the playoffs. And it's going to be Valley versus Kamei in the playoffs. So be thinking about who you're going to pick and closest to the final score, and you'll win possibly a Grand Slam breakfast from Denny's. Okay. Down in defeat. And I must say I'm very happy about this. Very happy about what went down in defeat yesterday across the United States by voters that showed common sense. Now, let me stop right there and say to the audience, and I know there's liberals that listen in and they grit their teeth and they bend their knuckles until they're white and they're frustrated with me. That's fine. I'm not going to change my ways, and you're not going to change yours. But voters are showing some common sense. Let's just talk about a couple of these common sense issues. The San Francisco chief of police was voted out of office. He is gone. He is a done deal. The toast is burned. He was a real advocate of sanctuary cities. He was a real advocate of illegal aliens. And this guy was so repulsive during the Kate Steinle hearings and everything that I just am glad the voters in San Francisco opened the door and moved him through it and then closed it. He is gone. He's out of there. And also, it was really interesting what happened in the state of Ohio with presidential candidate John Kasich, the governor running for presidency. There was a movement to legalize marijuana. I'm just going to say this, and if you have any objection, call me or agree with me. I don't care. But legalization of marijuana is nothing more than telling our kids that it's okay to get involved with drugs. Now, I know the argument is going to be, well, yeah, but alcohol is legal and all this kind of stuff. Wait a minute. The legal products, and if you want to get the law changed and go back to what they tried in Prohibition days, go for it. But marijuana is just a gateway drug to other drugs. And that's not me talking, that's a proven fact. Now, there are those that argue and say, oh, no, I can smoke marijuana and never have anything else. It's still considered a gateway drug. Well, it went down in defeat yesterday, and Kasich and others said, no, the children of Ohio need to have something as a pedestal in the horizon of goodness, not all this legalization of what's bad. And marijuana went down in defeat. And caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. And then also, I was really watching what happened with that Houston bathroom bill, absolutely disgusting, to where gays, lesbians, and transgenders could demand that they could use either the men's bathroom or the women's bathroom or whatever. It soundly got slapped in the face yesterday, and necessarily so in Houston, and it went down. Common sense prevailed. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Mr. Bell. You know, I totally agree with what you're saying, the legalization of marijuana. Any drug that's legal is not good for our families and our children. But on another note, I read a letter to the editor of the wonderful Times News yesterday, and boy, it just frosted my butt. This woman, I don't know if you read the letter. In short, she's going to welcome with open arms all these refugees that they're trying to cram down our throats. You know, I don't understand. We are the greatest nation in the world. We have a wonderful country, wonderful people. We have so many children, veterans, and homeless people here. Why do we have to rescue everybody else when we can't rescue our own?
You know, and I'm really glad that you brought this subject up, and I applaud you, and I applaud your courage for bringing this issue up. Number one, most of the naivete on this issue falls to the liberal left and those that are wearing great big smiles on their faces and just basically believe everything the Times News and the College of Southern Idaho wants to throw out in front of the public. Oh, yeah, this is great. This is wonderful. Cultural diversity. Let me stop right there. I don't want cultural diversity. I don't want to have segmented societies and segmented communities, and I don't think you do either. In the older days of this great country, when it was really formulating into being the power of the world, people came here and it was a melting pot to our beliefs, our morality, and our politics and religion. And it's not fragmented. It was not fragmented like it is becoming today. And I think you, like me, cultural diversity, I'm not in favor of it, especially when there's a concern that these people are not all that glitters is gold.
Well, that's true. You know, if their laws and things were so terrible, why don't they stand up, fight for their freedoms, and fight for the way they believe? I don't want that crap in our country. Those people, I'm not saying all. I am not saying all, and I know you're probably going to get calls on my comments. But those people are evil. That is the only way to describe these people. They rape young women, molest young women. They kill people, behead people who don't believe in their religion. Well, bull pucky.
Well, let me just say this, and I'll get you off. Let me get you off the hook a little bit, Donna. Donna, let me get you off the hook a little bit because I'm on your side. You know that. But people will come back and say, well, they're not all bad. You're only talking about a small percentage. Well, that may be true. But when the vetting process from the FBI and Homeland Security says we don't know who these people are or what they represent, it doesn't matter if 100% are good or if it's 95% that are good. The 5% can and have in the past wreaked a lot of damage at various locations around the globe.
No, I totally agree. You know, it just infuriates me when people are so naive. I'm using that word loosely. Why do they think that they're going to live by our laws, abide by our rules, and not try to infiltrate ISIS and any other terrorist organization? They're stay here.
I agree with you. I agree with you, and I thank you. I really want to applaud your courage. And I say this not because you're such a dear friend. I say this because it's going to take more people like you to stand up and remain true to your virtues and your honesty, because in this day and age, the left is demonizing and calling us bigots and hate mongers, and I salute you for your thoughts. Thanks, Donna. God bless you.
Well, thank you. I agree with you, Zeb, and thank you and Deanne for keeping all this stuff out in the forefront. Most people just try to push it under the carpet. Well, that kind of stuff is going to get all of us hurt or killed.
I agree. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you very much. Caller number 2, I'm going to ask you, just please have patience with me. I got to get a commercial break in here. I promise you're next in line. I'll get you right on the air. Don't forget, on Tuesdays, Dr. History, and it's sponsored by Minnecasia Sales. Zach and the rest of the crew at 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Carpet, they've got it. Vinyl, they've got it. Windows, they've got them with Western Windows to help save on your heating bills this winter. Lumber, got it. Hey, and don't forget, they got all the Tartar Farm and Ranch panels and gates, too. Wow! I mean, they've got an inventory that's going to always have what you're looking for, and nice people to boot. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, bringing you Dr. History. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I'd like to know when the light bulb is going to come on for a lot of people. The majority of people from the Middle East that are coming in here are male. They're men. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, we don't know who they are. And another thing that's bothering me is how nothing is ever mentioned about these terrorist training camps that we've got in this country, and how many of those people are going to end up being trained in those camps.
Tony, the laxity, I think that's a good word right there. The laxity of doing anything, saying anything, or reporting on anything about what's going on right here on our own turf, right here in our own country, is absolutely stunning and amazing to me. Martin Moyer wrote that book, Twilight in America. I know you're aware of him, and I know that you listened when he was on the air with me. And he defined exactly what's going on right here on our own turf, and our senators and congressmen are so naive. Most of them don't even take the time to understand what's going on, whether it's in Oregon, whether it's in upstate New York, whether it's in Texas. My goodness, Tony, when are they going to wake up and smell the coffee?
Well, when the right time comes, these people are going to be leaving their hideouts, and there's going to be rioting in every major city in this country, and our law enforcement is going to be overwhelmed.
I want to say this, and I think you'll appreciate how I say it. I want to agree with you. I do agree with you. But then on the other hand, I'm afraid that if you're right, it could be the absolute destruction of our country. And I see it coming myself. Tony, you and Mary.
Gun sales are going out of sight.
Absolutely. Mary and.
Loaded, Zeb.
All right. Believe me, you don't have to tell me twice. Thanks, Tony. God bless you, man. Thanks.
Okay,
all right.
Bye.
Really nice people right there in Twin Falls. We've got a lot of things to be worried about, but then I want to go back to a positive part of this again this morning. That Deanna and I talked about this earlier at about 10 to 4 this morning. With these votes saying no to the chief of police in San Francisco, throwing him out, with the people in Ohio saying no to the legalization of marijuana sales, no, and they threw it out. And then the people in Houston saying no to that perverted, sick, absolutely disgusting bathroom bill, which cleared the way for gays, lesbians, and pathetic transgenderism to permeate itself in the school systems and all over the city. They said no. They said no. However, there is another story out that absolutely is disgusting, and I'm going to get to that in a few minutes if I have time this morning, about a transgender student in Illinois. And it's got way out of hand, and Obama and his administration have stepped in on the side of, yeah, you bet you guessed it, the transgender. So stay tuned for that. Right now, let's see, we got to pay some more bills here. I want to remind you, and give me a call. I really want your opinion on things this morning. You are the mainstay of this program, so give me a jingle. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. These are A, nice people, B, very knowledgeable, C, highly qualified physical therapists, and D, they can help you get back to being you. All the exercises, all the sports medicine, the hydrotherapy pool with the treadmill. I mean, wow. The concern, I think that's a good word to use. Concern that they have for you and your well-being is overwhelming. They are really concerned about making you and helping you feel better. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. You call this number, 678-1191. 678-1191. Make an appointment today. Really good folks. I think what I'll do is, I know more calls are going to be coming in. I want to talk to you a little bit about the train wreck of what they did, they being Congress, to us, meaning all of us, with this budget bill for Obama in just a moment. Stay tuned for that. Don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology and hearing aids. My goodness, your hearing is extremely important. And I had to laugh. I've had a little trouble with my hearing, and I got it taken care of. And thank you very much, Christine Pickup. But there are others that will sit there, and now that I can hear everything to a pin dropping on the table, I sit around people, and they'll go, "What? What did you say?" Well, listen, those are the folks that really need to make an appointment for a hearing screening with the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. The number to call, 312-0957, located across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. Please call that number and make an appointment for a hearing screening today. By the way, on Mondays, we have a giveaway of a half dozen delicious, nice, steamy, gooey, absolutely delicious, delectable cinnamon rolls from Sophie's Chatterbox. I go on and on and on because, I've been on this diet and I haven't been able to enjoy a lot of that stuff. I would like to be the winner of my own contest. Well, on Mondays, we give away a half dozen of those from Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. Stay tuned and stop in. Enjoy the great restaurant and the bakery items from Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Why did this happen? Let's talk a little bit about this next story this morning. And for those of us that are getting a little long in the tooth and a little long in the earlobes, yep, I'm there. Why did Congress allow $150 billion, let me say that again a little slower for effect so it soaks in, $150 billion, with a B, billion dollars, to be taken from the Social Security Trust Fund and to be used to pay current government bills. They did. In the dead of night, behind closed doors, with no TV cameras, no radio, microphones, nothing, nada. Congress allowed this to happen as part of Obama's budget deal. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you, why are we, the American citizens, being literally hung out to dry, not only by this administration? The blame falls also on our absolutely pathetic senators and congressmen. This was done at night by Congress with no spine. The deal was absolutely nothing more than to appease and capitulate to Obama's budget deal. And now, for the remaining 442 days of Obama's administration, ladies and gentlemen, Obama has a blank check. He's got his phone. He's got his pen. And he can write out any amount and authorize any amount of money for anything this man wants to spend. This devious, dishonorable president, Barack Obama, he can borrow with the auspices of this budget deal and spend unlimited money. There's no ceiling until 2017. Now, I'm really shocked that a lot of people that are over 62 or 65 have not called in, and they're livid about this. Because this devious and absolutely evil administration, I call it the way I feel, went and took $150 billion out of the Social Security Trust Fund. It's almost like telling seniors, go on, get on your crutches, get in your wheelchair, just get lost. You know, if we don't have the money for you, who cares? We've got other things to worry about. Don't you get that feeling? I do. I'm 68. And I broke every bone in my body twice. That's not brag, that's a fact. And I am absolutely livid to think that I worked since I was 14 years of age. And to have these absolutely worthless three-piece suit, wingtip shoes politicians steal from a Social Security Trust Fund, it makes me so mad I want to go back and just say, okay, batter up, let's go. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Well, I'm only 58, and they stole my money and your money, and what's up with that? This is just a continuation of this thievery of the Social Security system, so that, well, it's all out of money, we don't have any more money for it, and, well, gee, golly gee, sorry, but you're on your own now. That's what it's going to end up.
Well, okay, caller, let me ask you this, and I'm not trying to be snide with you in any way, shape, or form. I'm just being honest. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, the only thing that I could do myself would be to call my senator, call my representatives, and say, hey, put a stop to this, and get our money back.
Okay, here's what I'd like to say to you. You're on the right track. Naturally, that's what we hired them for through the vote process. But I'd go a step further. I would make sure that you were very emphatic when you called their offices and said, wait a minute, I want you to go into this. I want you to talk to Mike Crapo. I want you to talk to Jim Risch. I want you to talk to Simpson. I want you to talk to whomever. I want answers, and I do not want a form letter. If you're going to be running for re-election, i.e. in the case of Crapo, I want an explicit letter as to what you're doing and how you're going to try to help me. I mean, hold their feet to the fire, because this is lunacy.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. This is just the worst kind of crazy thievery that you could even think of, I would believe.
Absolutely.
Stealing from your own people.
Well, and it's not the first time that somebody's opened up this Pandora's box of money from Social Security and said, here, take it for something else. And it's not going to be the last time either.
Oh, probably not. But I'll make another point here. If we can get some people to run for senators, run for Congress, for representatives, and a president, and their platform would be to repair the Social Security system instead of wasting all these trillions and hundreds of billions of dollars in foreign aid. Fix the Social Security system so that your elderly don't become destitute.
There you go. I appreciate your call. I got another one waiting. Sir, God bless you for your thoughts this morning. Thank you. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Ramsey Heating and Electric is offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, and a heat pump. You know that your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them today at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric can save you money with Lennox. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning, Jeb. You know, I got a call from the Republican National Committee last night, and And anyway, it was an interesting conversation in the sense that, of course, they wanted me to send them some money to support the RNC, and I emphatically said I would never do that in light of what's been going on at the Republican leadership, the establishment, how they attack all the Tea Party people, the Ted Cruzes, the Rubios, Mike Lee's, and so forth, that are out there trying to uphold the Constitution. But this is the problem. We've gotten politicians that are neocons, like the Mitt Romneys and so forth, the Jeb Bushes, that do not support the Constitution. They do not support limited government really at all. And so we've gotten so far away. The solution to our problems, of course, is to get back to the original intent of our Constitution.
That's right.
And have them keep their oath to keep us free. And bringing in all these Muslims into this country is certainly not keeping the Constitution. And this budget deal, of course, is absolutely unbelievable. But Boehner went out with doing his traitorous things.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything you said this morning, and it's so simple, Adrian. Honestly, it's so simple. When you stop back and think about it, just for a second, close your eyes. Closing the border, just go do it. Just go do it. Stopping all this pilfering of various funds like Social Security. Just stop it. Stop the excess spending. There is no issue that cannot be corrected by noon today, Eastern Time, if all of a sudden they'd look in the mirror and say, we got to stop this. That's enough.
Well, this is the whole deal. All these illegals coming in here and the migrants, and heaven only knows how many terrorists are coming into right into the Valley.
That's right.
And upon a signal, the whole thing. Europe right now is basically being overrun by refugees, and I'm reading every day things that they're demanding that Christian celebrations be stopped, crosses be taken down.
Yep.
Sweden, the women are being raped at a very high rate, and this is happening all over, and in Europe, and in the crime rate here. One thing that people are not telling us, the incarceration rate in our prisons of Muslims is 9 times the actual population. They have a small percentage in the country, but there's a tremendous amount of Muslims in our prison systems.
Yeah.
And people are realizing they're breaking the laws, and they're covering it all up. That's the bad part.
I got to run, Adrian, but God bless you for your call. Good points of interest this morning. Thank you very much. I got to get a commercial in here. Thank you. Very well stated. We'll take some more calls on this. Really, when you think about it, before I do this commercial break, okay, we want to close the border. Close it. Don't take this lip service from these politicians. Well, we've got to do this, and we've got to go through this channel, and we've got to contact so-and-so. No, you don't. Just close the border for illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, I prefer that term, and stop them from coming into this country. That's it. When it comes to pilfering, like I used a little bit ago, the Social Security Fund, no. Just stop it. Have some big dude, a former WWF wrestler with a great big stick with nails in the stick, standing there by the door, and when they come in and try to take funds out of Social Security, whack them. No, it's not that hard. The logistics of running this country the way it should be run are not that difficult to get back to the basics. Honestly. Don't forget Berry Equipment and Rental. And they've got 3 locations serving you. Honestly, 3 great locations. Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They have all the equipment you need to get the job done right. I went by the Burley location yesterday, and I'm telling you, they've got piece after piece after piece of equipment there for anybody and everybody to go in, whether you're renting, whether you're buying, and I'll tell you what, it will get the job done. Whether it's the Bobcat skid steer loaders, there you go, Zebber, along with the Doosan loaders and, of course, the Coyote tractors, everything is there. there for you to get the job done. Barry Equipment and Rental, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You know, if we steal from someone here locally, or even a state job, or even a federal job, and they find us, we're going to jail, or at least we're going to court. Now, you know, this isn't thievery; it's thievery. Now, it's just unbelievable that there's a double standard. Some state, federal, or even local level of law enforcement needs to find these people responsible and arrest them. Period.
I couldn't agree with you more, but, you know, we sit back as a populace, and, sir, I respect the way you said this, and I agree with you, but, you know, we should go back to the days of the Old West. You get hung if you're a horse thief, and quite frankly, we've got politicians that are doing a lot more than what they did 125 years ago stealing horses. They're stealing our future. They're stealing our future as retirees, and they're stealing the future of kids that are working today.
That's right. They are. You know, if it's a federal level, if the FBI or law enforcement agency, go find it. Let's start it. They love the word investigation. Well, let's make an investigation and let's nail these people if they're stealing.
Well, look at Obama's budget deal. I mean, the man absolutely, he's got a snide look on his face. He's got a sinister look in his eye because, you know what? He got us. He got us because of the spineless politicians back in Washington, and I'm pointing my finger at Boehner. I'm pointing my finger at all the House. I'm pointing my finger at all the senators that didn't have the respect for the constituents that elected them to office to stand up for them and tell Obama, no, you can't have a blank check, no, you can't have unlimited spending, and no, you can't take $150 billion out of Social Security just to cover your big butt.
Wow. You know, just real quickly, if you have one pile of $1 million, let's just picture this just for a second, then I'll get off the air. You got one pile, just one pile of $1 million, okay? And now we're going to take that pile into a gymnasium, into a school or a big area, and we're going to have 1,000 piles of $1 million in each pile. So now picture it. We got 1,000 piles of $1 million in each pile. All that money together is $1 billion with a B.
Yeah. And our money is gone. You know as well as I do the replacement factor of that money out of that trust fund. Adios, amigo. The horse is over the mountain. It's gone.
Well, you know, and Obama, with the exception of impeachment, and that's such a long, drawn-out process, he's not scared of that. Other than impeachment, Obama knows he can't be passed. He can do anything he wants to. That's the scary thing about it.
That's right. And you know who suffers? It's not the politicians. It's not going to be the legacy of Obama. It's going to be people that are in desperate need of trying to keep their boat floating right now financially. And the American public is being so abused by this administration and by the poor quality of congressmen and senators that are sent back there to represent us. And I'll underline the word poor, and I dare somebody to tell me I'm wrong.
You're right on target. You know, these people don't think there's going to be any repercussions, but when you line dominoes up, you know how as a kid you line dominoes up in a line and it's just spacing just right and you push the first one over, it pushes all the rest of them over. This eventually, when they steal from the people's money and the people don't have it when they become old, this is going to cause a revolution, and they don't realize it, but there's going to be the people of the United States of America are going to collectively get tired of this, and they're going to go to Washington with pitchforks and torches, and they're going to say, we have had enough. And
rightfully so. Thank you, sir, for your comments. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good man right there, and I appreciate it. Hey, I got to get the weather in, but honestly, folks, come on. Just sit and think for a minute. Ponder the thought, if you will. If you're driving, keep your eyes open, hands on the wheel. If you're at home, just kind of sit there for a minute and think. Who gave them the right to steal from you and I? That's our money. That is our money collectively. $150 billion with a B dollars in Social Security, keywords here, trust fund. They could have used something else. Trust fund doesn't seem appropriate at all, does it? And they took it. They took it to cover government bills. In other words, to cover Obama's big spending and his lies. You think I'm not upset? Au contraire. Au contraire. Let's get the weather in here, brought to everybody by Mad River Laser. And, of course, they're located at 502 East Street in Rupert, and they've got a gift shop with all kinds of home decor items. And, by the way, too, I'll mention this one more time. They've got Halloween decorations 25 to 50% off for next year, okay? And they can do now a special kind of a printing process on blankets. You know, you take a blanket in there, a picture of your dog, picture of your horse, picture of your sports team, whatever. They can do all that right there at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Right now, here's the weather.
Here's your weather for this Wednesday, November 4th. Looking at cloudy skies for today. It is going to be a little bit on the breezy side. Winds out of the west right around 11 miles an hour. Expect a high of 37 for today. Tonight, low of 26. Kind of feels like winter has arrived. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, high of 41 with an overnight low of 27. Friday, pretty much the same. And then hopefully for Saturday, going to see some sunshine and a high of 48. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, thank you, Gina. Brought to everybody by Mad River Laser. Nicole and the rest of the crew, they can do anything. All your end-of-the-year awards, everything at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. You know, the man that called just a little bit ago said something that honestly, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but quite frankly, I don't care. I'm going to go back to what I said exactly a month ago on this program. We, the people of the United States of America, we, the people, are going to have to stand up en masse and say, that's it. No more. End of story. And we're going to have to light the torches. We're going to have to get in the faces of these politicians to the point where they're backed into a corner and they know that we, the people, mean business. And we're going to have a revolt. Seriously. I know the condemnation factor of me out there is going to be absolute. Oh, the liberals are going to go, oh, we got to call everybody. We got to get this guy off the radio. He's gone nuts. He's calling for a revolution. I'm calling for a revolt against the absolute insanity that is taking this country over and driving it right down into a gopher hole. Stealing money from a Social Security trust fund. Advocating that transgenders in the school system should have the rights, whether they are a boy or a girl. And by the way, again, God does not make mistakes. And the Obama administration getting involved and saying, well, they can use any bathroom or locker room they want to. What kind of absolute insanity is being preached in this country? Obamacare. It might fall completely out of bed this year and collapse. Oh, this illustrious president once said, why, everything is cool, man. It's going to be great. He lied about the costs, and he lied about the lack of care. Obamacare is right now backed up against the edge of the Grand Canyon, and with a little bit more of a breeze, it's going to fall into the abyss. I've had many doctors on this program talk about Obamacare. They have said it's a train wreck, looking for a place to jump the rails. And here we go. The costs are up 36 to 37% in some states. People are not signing up. And get this. Obamacare was formulated by this great, big, illustrious presidential campaign of Obama. Oh, we got to have Obamacare. That's my signature theme for all the years I'm in office. Well, listen, Mr. Obama, it's a mess. You wanted to start the program with 33 million people that were not covered. You said you could save the day for these people. Well, right now, after Obamacare's been in inception for quite a period of time, there are now still 32 million people uninsured, and the lists are growing and the numbers are growing like a cancer. experts, far more knowledgeable than me, have said that Obamacare could collapse this year. Remember when we said on this program long time ago that your choices for hospitals and hospital care and doctors might become limited? And there were people that called in and said, oh, come on, you know not of what you speak. Well, the numbers are in. And the choices for hospital care and doctors are less and less, and there are fewer doctors today, as predicted, because of the extreme costs of Obamacare. The man lied. The administration lied. And this is just another example of why we're in such trouble in this country. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Minidoka Memorial Hospital. Boy, I hate to have them tail and dovetail into that last little bit, but they're a very, very reputable and very nice people. I'm honored to have them on my program because of the great job they do. And I get a chance to visit with so many of the wonderful people over there. And tomorrow we're going to be visiting with Bart Hansen in the Lab Services Department of Minidoka Memorial Hospital at 1224 8th Street in Rupert. Your health is very important. So work with the best that really care. And that's the folks at Minidoka Memorial Hospital. I got to tell you, they have been so nice, so friendly, and so professional. And their vision of Minidoka Memorial is an independent community hospital dedicated to improving the health and well-being of the Mini-Cassia area. Thank you, Minidoka Memorial Hospital, and we'll have them on our segment tomorrow morning. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi. When all of these refugees get off of their boats on our shores, are we handing them their Obamacare card?
We are taking care of them, Chris. We're taking care of their health needs. We are taking care of their financial needs. We are taking care of their housing needs. We are taking care of their food needs. We're taking care of their educational needs. Oh, we're welcoming them in with open arms. And to make matters worse, of course, we have overlooked the people in our own country, citizens that pay their taxes, that are just absolutely going through hell right now, trying to make a living, but they can take a step backward. We'll welcome these other people in first.
Yeah. So, and you know, we are kind of landlocked in this country. The Canadians don't let us cross their border without some kind of ID, and they know that we're going to be leaving. When we go to our southern border, we can't get into our southern neighbor without all kinds of ID, and those people know when we're going to leave their country. What is going on? Our shores are being attacked, our borders are being attacked, and we are being led by a so-called president. I think it's time to impeach him and take away his ID, but let's take him back to Africa.
Well, okay, I will supply the money for the boat ticket because I want the trip over to be long and arduous.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, somehow, everything that is sacred about our country is being torn down. And I watch what happens on the East Coast. These people are oblivious.
I agree. You know, let me end there.
They're supposed to be smarter than us Westerners.
Oh, yeah.
We have a one-up on them. We're not just as gullible as they are.
I'll tell you what, after I saw some of the interviews with some of the students at Cornell University, I had to back up, sit down, put my head in my hands, and worry about how stupid younger people can be. Chris, I want to end our conversation on a lighter note and a more happy note. Listen to this. Hillary Clinton is now down lower in the polls than ever. Her likability and trustworthiness in the polls is only now 27%. That's good news.
That is good news. Who is waking up to the facts?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I had to end our conversation.
Coming out with that kind of information.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got that this morning early at about 5:05. So Hillary is down in the polls and only 27%. What's that again?
Hey, we'll see ya.
All right. Take care, Chris. Thank you. We had a little delay there, and I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt her on that last note. I thank you very much for her call. Chris, very nice lady. Yep, Hillary is in the likability and trustworthy department. Only 27% of Americans find her acceptable. Oh, there is some good news. Let's talk a little bit about being traction ready. You know, yesterday, I got to tell you, I stopped into Tires West, Les Schwab, over there with Randy, and I'm sure all the Les Schwabs are the same way right now. I mean, car after car after car after car after car are in there and just absolutely getting ready for the bad weather. Yep, they had an alarm clock, wake-up call yesterday. Alarm clock went off, and they said, whoa, colder temperatures, snow, we better get in there and get our traction tires on the vehicle. And they've got all your tire chains, and they've got all your winter wheels, and they got your batteries. Oh boy, there is nothing worse in the morning on a cold day going out and turning the key and going whoop, whoop, whoop. And that's all you get. Well, make sure you've got a good battery, and they've got them all right there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Yes, sir, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Hey, you've been listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call 312-0957 today. Wheels is going to take us to news right now from CBS. I'll be back in 6. Don't go away. Oh my. And we start off hour number 2. Wheels a little bit low. Please take care of that if you can. Thank you, sir. And by the way, I want to take a little moment here to say thanks to Wheels. I call him Wheels. That's his nickname. Damon's doing a great job over at that station. And there's a young man that is so polite, and I've had many of my listeners call and say how polite he is. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Thanks. That means a lot. So, Wheels, don't get the big head. We're proud of you, okay?
Well, thank you, sir. I'm flattered.
Well, don't let it go to your eyes, okay?
Definitely, I won't let it overpour.
All right, there you go, buddy. Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, and, of course, our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal, and they say you can expect more and receive more from their great service. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Get on the route service today. We've been on that route service for years. You can almost set your watch by them, and these guys are good. They're efficient, and they're very nice. Western Waste Services, taking care of your garbage. It's gone. It's out of there. Thank you very much, Western Waste Services. Want to also remind you about our friends Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Every morning we start the program with a weather forecast sponsored by them at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Carpet, flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Look for the blue door. Really nice people. I'm honored. I really am when I say this almost every week when this man's on the phone. He is a great businessman, quite an entrepreneur, and he has a couple of books out, The Devil at My Doorstep, The Devil at Our Doorstep, and I got to compliment him this week again, because I think this is one of his, if not the best blog that he's ever written, and I want to say good morning to Dave Bego. Dave, good morning. God bless you, man. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing fine. It's a little hard to hear you. I don't know if you can turn your volume up a little bit.
Well, we've been having volume troubles for the last couple of days, and I apologize for that. Wheels, if you can somehow boost it or ride the gain with Mr. Beagle and myself, I'd sure appreciate it. Is that any better?
It's a little bit.
Okay. Dave, once again, kudos to you for an excellent blog, and The Great Pretender Wants Control. You, in this 8-page blog, made out every high point and low point about this administration and about what big labor wants to do, and I'm going to kind of turn it over to you and let you pick some of the high points that you want to talk about this morning. Go ahead, please.
Well, Zeb, I am very concerned about America and where we're going and what the ultimate goal is of the Great Pretender, who I'm referring to President Obama, and the people that support him on the far left and the big labor bosses. And, the bottom line is that these people, they don't like our free market capitalistic society because they don't know how to operate it and do it through selling themselves and doing good works and doing good things for people. They have to achieve their goals through intimidation, misinformation, misdirection, bribery, pressure, everything they can to do what they want to do. And that's what communism and socialism is all about. And the American people need to wake up, because if you look at what this president has been pushing since he's been in office, they all add up to this objective and the tactics they use. He wants class warfare to split the Americans, people against each other, tax the rich, and, of course, redistribution of wealth. The big labor bosses are the same thing. They want to use corporate profits ahead of employee wages and benefits, and they think that they can do that. But here's the thing. On the other side of it, they're using the dues money they get from this stuff for their own pockets, and on top of it, there are programs like fast food workers, Fight for 15. They're using this not because they want these people to make more money, but so they can unionize them. And let's just go down the list real quick. Double the number of work-study jobs for college students. Equal wages for women and paid contraception and abortions. Green energy, Obamacare, increased regulations on business. Because you control business, you control the company or country. Speech is claiming conservatives want dirty air and water back to the environmentalists again. Equality and redistribution of wealth. Misinterpretation of the facts, such as employment figures are improving and employment is headed downward when it's not. This is part of their misrepresentation. Characterizing business as abusive, going after conservative networks like Fox, undermining the Constitution through executive orders, destroying the economy and forcing the population to capitulate. And then, he's been going through even more lately, forcing the Iran deal through Congress, allowing radical Islam nation to have nuclear weapons, creating a racial divide through his comments such as racism is deeply rooted in the U.S. society, when he's probably been the person that's caused more division than anybody. And he supports Black Lives Matters, demanding gun laws and confiscation, supporting same-sex and transgender relationships, which was voted down in Houston yesterday, establishing Common Core to control future generation minds. I mean, Zeb, you look at all these things he's doing, and then you look behind the scenes at his upbringing by people that were Saul Alinsky, communist type of people, and the SEIU, who I've told people before and written a blog about that they have marched in the streets of California with the Communist Party. All this is geared towards collapsing our society as we know it and reestablishing it as a communist, socialistic type of society.
You have, again, hit a home run this morning, because the way you have broken this down is absolutely excellent. And I want to pick and choose some of the subject matter to have you highlight. But before I do that, I want you to comment. I was so mad last night. It's a good thing you weren't in my living room, because I was throwing my Tony Lama boots at the TV set when I learned that this administration, in the budget deal that was passed in the late hours of the evening, and the American public didn't have anything as far as knowledge is concerned as to how dangerous this was, they pilfered from a Social Security trust fund $150 billion with a B to help cover some of the expenses that Obama's administration had run up. They took the money, they stole the money from us seniors, $150 billion, and you know as well as I am, it will never be paid back. I am so fed up with this administration, and then when I read your blog, I got to tell you, my blood pressure was about 190 over 140. I mean, you really helped me a lot.
Well, I'm sorry to push your blood pressure up, because we don't want anything to happen to you, but the bottom line is we have to wake the American people up, because this guy's got 14 months left, and if he continues to push these things and he's successful, he could theoretically collapse the economy, declare martial law, and take over.
Absolutely.
And, America, I know they sit back and say, you know, Dave's crazy. He's way out there on the far right. No, I'm not crazy, and I'm not on the far right. Unfortunately, I've been exposed to all this in my fight with the SEIU, and they use the same exact tactics that this president is using. And we've got to have people stand up and go after him and impeach him, go after all of his programs, and keep him so busy he doesn't have time to destroy this country in the next 14 months.
Okay, let's talk a little bit, and we're going to go through some of these categories really quick because of time constraints. Oh, the green energy. I want to talk about this. Green energy is not available right now to go on the market as a source of turn-on power. It's not going to happen. It is not going to be ready for at least 35 to 40 years if they really dedicated a full-court press. But at the same time, they're canceling all the coal reproduction of power plants. They're taking care of making sure that they're going to have a severely elevated price on all fossil fuels. We're going to see diesel and everything go through the roof in a short period of time. This administration is pushing us to the brink of becoming a third world country on account of no energy. I think you'll agree.
Oh, absolutely, Zeb, and you know, and they're using the people who are the green energy environmentalists because you know they get contributions that got them elected and that, and these people believe in the same things they do. That you know, they need to control us. They're smarter than we are, and that's what people got to understand. They think they're smarter than we are, and we need to be taken care of, and we need to be controlled. And that's not what America was made for. America was that everybody stands on their own God-given abilities to stand up, work hard, persevere, you know, and grow and do what their abilities will allow them to do. And these people don't want that to happen.
All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about Obamacare. I've done some study on that in the last 48 hours. I've talked to many people that are working for various think tanks on the East Coast in Washington, D.C. And quite frankly, Obamacare is right now looking for a spot to jump off the train tracks and have a real wreck. We are seeing now that the Obamacare costs are up 36 to 37% in many states. We are seeing now that people are not signing up. We are seeing now the original intent of Obamacare was to cover about 30 million people. Well, with Obamacare, now there's over 32 million uninsured. And we are also seeing that the costs and the hospital care and the fewer doctors, Obamacare is falling apart at the seams. Your response?
Well, exactly it is. And this is the whole thing, again, is people understand it's about control. They want everybody under the Obamacare so that they can control people and control their health and everything like that. And it doesn't work in a free market society. And here's the other thing, Zeb, that you didn't mention is deductibles are going up so much that people did have a problem. They'd have to pay so much on a deductible basis, that it would bankrupt a lot of people. And, again, the other side of Obamacare is economic collapse. You put so much burden on the economy and society that the U.S. economy virtually implodes.
I was so glad I did a gleeful little dance around the TV this morning when I heard that bathroom bill, that was the jargon used for the Houston bill for the transgenders, the gays, and the lesbians, went down in defeat in Houston yesterday. But this administration, this absolutely heinous administration, keeps pushing for transgenderism, like what's going on in Chicago area right now with one transgender student, and they're saying that he, and that's what he is, a he, can go ahead and use the ladies' locker room and bathrooms. This is so perverted what's going on in this country. I'd want you to address that, if you will.
Well, Zeb, it's very simple, and I know people think I make it too simple, but it's another way to divide us. Okay, and that's what they're doing with the racism and the attacks on police and all the other things they're doing. This is about dividing us as a country, and the old saying, divide and conquer. And people just have to wake up to the fact that that's what this is all about, that these people don't want us to have our American freedoms anymore. They want to control us.
When you say divide, is the country right now, in your opinion, so divided that you are going to have a hard time trying to patchwork this thing back together again with a new presidency? I mean, how bad in your part of the woods back in the Midwest is it as compared to other sections of the country?
Well, I think it's going to be tough for the next president, and but I think there's people that will get on board. But, we got to go after the real issues. And, this stuff on the same sex, we got into that here in Indiana because our governor was trying to pass a law on that. And that's kind of backfired and caused division and everything. And, we need to stay out of those social issues. What we need to do is the real fundamental issues for this country, get our economy straightened out, eliminate our debt, and, close our borders so that we're secure and we don't have drugs and weapons and terrorists coming across and people coming across that take jobs and lower our wage rates across the country. We need to do the fundamental things, and we need to get government to do that. And I think if we do that, the next president does that, I think he can bring it back, but it's not going to be an easy sell. All
right, this morning earlier we commented that Hillary Clinton's numbers on trustworthiness and likability are down to only 27% of Americans. But yet, she is the flag bearer for the Democratic Party, and I am so afraid, I know she's going to get the nomination for the Democrats, and I am so afraid that we may wake up in the not-too-distant future and see her sitting in the Oval Office, and then everything we're talking about is going to get worse.
Well, depending on who the Republicans nominate, and that's why we need somebody, I think, from the business world and that is a strong orator and will get up and has a backbone like Trump or Carson. And, when they go to debate Hillary, they'll really expose her for what she is. She won't be able to soft speak, in these debates and that. I think she'll be out there kind of muttering. And I think if we get people like that, we can make her implode. I really do.
Let me ask you one final thought here this morning, and I want to revert back to what we were talking about a moment ago about Obama and the budget, etc. This budget deal, Dave, that was signed late at night and basically passed through without any scrutiny, it gives this hideous president an opportunity to write more checks, blank checks, and drive us so much more into debt, probably exceeding $21 trillion, and he can spend anything he wants unlimited with no ceiling. Wow, how could our congressmen and senators be this stupid?
Zeb, this goes back, and I've talked about this. I think we need term limits, and I know a lot of people say it doesn't work, but it does work from the perspective is that people can only be there for so many years, and they got to do something else. And we don't have the same people sitting in Washington that are pandering for votes all the time because they want to get reelected. And that's the problem we have. And that's why we have people in Washington don't have any backbone because they're afraid if they, do something that will offend certain voting blocks and that they won't get reelected. And what we need is people that go to Washington to do the right thing for this country, not for themselves. Spend their time there and then go back to the private sector.
One other area that I'm very concerned about, and everybody out here in the West is really afraid of, is the EPA and their edicts and what they're going to be trying to do over the next couple of months. And, of course, the climate change attitude with Obama. He's going to take every dollar he can and try to put us at the top of the pile, he thinks, on climate change. And it's absolutely going to break the bank. The American taxpayer can't absorb what he wants to pay for climate change. What are your thoughts?
Well, again, it goes back to the simple thing about control. You control the climate, Common Core and education, health care. It all goes back to Cloward and Piven, which I've talked about on your show. They wrote a paper, they were from Columbia University, on how to bring down America and establish communism, totalitarianism, and these are all just parts of the puzzle that he's putting together. He really doesn't care about the climate. It has nothing to do with that. It's about control. It's about putting this country in a position where it implodes, and that's what they're trying to do. And we need people in Washington to stand up and tell him, no, it isn't going to happen anymore. You're not doing this. And like I say, go after him. Make him respond to them. Go on the offense. And instead of them responding to him all the time, make him respond to them.
I agree. On a somewhat lighter note, and I use those words carefully because I was in tears, my Green Bay Packers went to the Denver Broncos on Sunday night and got a good old you-know-what whooping. However, on the next evening when I was watching the Panthers play the Colts, I was sitting there honestly cheering for your team. And they did some dumb things on Monday Night Football, too.
Oh, my God, Zeb, it was so bad. I turned it off a little after the first quarter because I couldn't stand it anymore. And, of course, then they came back, tied it up, went into overtime. But, you know as well as I do, you can't go out and play half a game stupidly and then come back and try to win it. You've got to be on your game the whole game, and the Colts just have not been able to do that this year.
I agree. On a lighter note, to you and your family, God's blessings to you, and thank you for being such a major part of our program every week, Dave Bego. Anything else you want to remind us of? Anything coming up that we need to be aware of? Go ahead and take the time.
I just, Zeb, that we need your listeners out there to get with the congressmen and senators and that, and let them know that, America is on the precipice, and they need to get these people to go after this president and this administration and start rolling back some of this stuff. Amen.
Dave Bego, a very, very dear friend, and thank you very much with his great blog this week. Dave, God bless. I'll be in touch with you next week.
Okay, thanks, and have a great weekend, and stay warm out there. By the way, it's about 73 degrees and clear here.
Thanks for that really nice note at the end of the program. And by the way, right now it's only 32. Thank you very much. Have a good one, Dave.
You too.
All right, thank you. Dave Bego in Indianapolis, Indiana. A very, very valued and cherished friend and a great businessman back in the Indianapolis area. Okay, I got to pay some bills. Here we go. Let's ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn, between Rupert and the world. They've got all the snowmobiles. They've got the timber sled snow bikes. You better get in there and check them out. And they've got all the accessories. Now, when I say all the accessories, there's a lot of things that go with and for going up in the hills, snowmobiling or snow timber sled. I got to say that again without biting my tongue. Timber sled, snow bikes, etc. I mean, whether you're a four-wheeler, they've got everything over there for your accessories. And another very important part of their business is that they have a wonderful service department. They can fix anything, and they do. Let's ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn. It's true. It's where the fun is sold. Really nice people. I have been on the air. I had a call yesterday on my cell phone, and a gentleman said, hey, I hear you're advertising for Snake River Auto Body and Paint. I said, yes, sir. It's more than just advertising. I'm really giving them a testimonial. And when I say testimonial, I know firsthand how good these people are. As I stated on the program, another person decided to hit my truck and maliciously and put some big, big dents in it. And boy, I am so fortunate. I took my vehicle over to Snake River Auto Body and Paint at 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. They are very polite, very conscientious, satisfaction guaranteed, and my cell phone just went off, and they really believe in customer service, and I highly recommend them. What more of a testimonial can I say? I highly recommend them to you. So if you've got anything that's all dinged up, whether it's a car, a pickup, or maybe your horse trailer or whatever, take it into them. Snake River Auto Body and Paint at 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. The number to call, 734-5790. Really nice people. Talk to old Dan there. He's a good old boy. And, you know, another thing, too, if you're on Highway 24, headed over towards Rupert, and you're going into Rupert right there on that first curve, kind of whoop, look out, and there they are, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. They really know. You know, when you get all those different categories of protection for you, your family, and your business, they really know. All you have to do is call for an appointment today at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Yep, serving you. Really nice people. And then we're going to have our next guest on the phone momentarily. Stand by. I also want to remind you that our friends Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox are offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, an air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. All you have to do is call them at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox can save you money. I believe on the phone right now we have a gentleman by the name of Rex Jones from Hanson Mortuary, and he's on the phone with us now at 710 6th Street in Rupert. Rex, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Zeb. How are you?
Well, I'm going to ask you to speak up a little bit. We're having some volume issues over the last couple of days. I don't know what happened, and I have a hard time hearing people on my end, so if I could ask you to speak up a little bit, I'd sure appreciate it. Give us a little background, Rex. How long have you been with Hanson Mortuary?
I've been here about 10 months.
Okay. And what is your specific job? What are your duties?
I'm in the sales, in the aftercare. I call and talk to people and make sure they're doing well. But I mainly sit down and try to prearrange their funerals to help them out, so at the time in need, it's not such an emotional strain on them.
Okay, now let's talk about this a little bit. And believe me, a lot of people are on my side of the fence on this, Rex. It's hard to talk about death, dying, and funerals. Nobody, and I think my category of friends, really wants to sit down and talk about it. How do you change that mindset?
Well, first thing is I got to educate them, because we're all doomed. From the first time we took our first breath, we agreed that one day we would meet our Maker. And so I've got to educate them that this isn't a bad thing. It's easier to talk about it now, where we can laugh and joke about it and pick the things they really want, and then at the time when it's an emotional high, at the time of need.
Right. Okay, now, when you sit down with somebody for the first time, let's just pretend I'm in your office right now. And boy, I'm nervous. I'm kind of flexing my knuckles on my hand, and I'm sweating and everything else. I don't like to talk about this. How do you make people feel comfortable and start asking questions about things?
Well, first off, Zeb, is I want everybody to know that when you walk through the doors here, or I come into your home, that I'm not just a salesman. We want to be a friend. We want to be part of your family. And so I'm gonna look for, like you, Zeb. I know you like the rope. I'm gonna go off on that. I know you like horses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get you going that way. I'm
Okay.
gonna let you know that I'm human too, and then we're gonna eventually it will come up. I will start asking you questions of what are you thinking about?
Right.
You know, what kind of service do you want? Do you want cremation? What's your options with the cremation? Do you want a traditional burial?
Okay. And am I out of place in saying that it kind of opens the door up so that they can kind of plan maybe even the music or who's going to speak or what the topic will be or what kind of basic decorations are going to be there? I mean, is that what we're talking about here?
Yes. We pick the flowers. We can pick the flowers, and we can pick right down to your casket, to the color of your vault.
Uh-huh.
Who's singing, who's playing. Sometimes, hopefully you don't outlive them if you want them to sing, but we do have that, we got to be careful on that aspect of it.
Okay.
We can get everything right down to it.
Now, once...
The obituary.
Okay, that's my next question. I was going to say, what about the writing of the obituary? And the reason I'm asking this is I told Deanne when I was going to start this program this morning, I was a little bit nervous about how to approach these various items of discussion. But some obituaries in the paper, they seem like they were just thrown together in a big hurry. Do we really want to sit down and kind of pre-plan our obituaries? Tell us about that.
It is easier. Most of the time it's left up to a surviving spouse or their children. And so we've had people come in and we've got them in files that they've got their own wrote out, and it's everything they ever wanted, and it's proofread, and they get an A in English for it. I do know that.
Oh, my goodness sakes. So basically, when you initially have somebody come into your office and they say, hey, we want to talk about pre-planning a funeral, I would imagine that it's fairly lengthy getting all this information. Can you do it all in one sitting?
Yes, you can. It takes about an hour. It depends on the conversation, if I stray off or if we stay on task, but it takes about an hour.
Okay.
An hour and a half at the most.
What's the hardest part of that kind of a question and answer period? I mean, what's the hardest part for you and or the people to try to get through?
It's probably the money.
Uh-huh.
Everything boils back down to money.
Okay. Define that a little bit, Rex, if you would.
Well, there's several ways to fund your funeral. You can prepay it all up at once, or there's options to fund it over a period of years.
Uh-huh.
And that's you got to pay for it. It's a service, and
right.
But you're also getting a guarantee with it.
Right.
That this plan's going to grow with inflation, hopefully, and that you won't pay any more than you have to.
And I would imagine, again, I'm very, very unknowledgeable about all this, but I would imagine at that juncture, you are taking a load off the family. All of a sudden, if a person passed away, I mean, overnight, they've got to figure out how to pay for everything and how much it's going to be. So you're really kind of taking a lot of the stress away, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. That's, we got surveys we look at all the time, I do, and try to see, but that is one of the big top thing that people want to know. The reason they do it is because it does take an emotional and financial burden off their kids, their spouse, their families.
Right.
And they feel that they've filled their responsibility by paying the last bill that they'll ever have and not passing it on to somebody else.
Right. Now, when you sit down and you do this study and you're trying to talk to them about pre-planning their funeral and everything, are these subject to change? I mean, if they go home and have a different whim and a different thought and everything, can they call back and change some of this?
Yes, they can. Now, once they fund it, then they got a 30-day free look period.
I see.
That we can go back, but we can change them. But as far as the family coming in and trying to change certain wishes, that's pretty much, that's what the people wanted.
Right.
That's what we do.
So basically, their wishes are honored because of going in there on a pre-planning basis.
Yes.
Okay. I got to get a little lighthearted here for a minute because I don't want to depress everybody by talking about death and dying, but what is the most strange or even sometimes humorous occurrence that's ever happened to you trying to pre-plan a funeral?
Oh, probably me telling them how I want to be buried.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
And
I'll give you a little insight, Zeb. I do not want to be laid down and viewed. I want an old pine box, leaned up in the corner. I told Joel, when you get me all prepped, put 245 slugs through my chest, open the curtain as they drive through, and play Frankie Lane, Bullet in My Shoulder.
Well, I got to admit, that's a little bit lighter than I thought it would be. Okay, what Frankie Lane song did you say you wanted sung?
Bullet in My Shoulder.
Oh, my goodness sakes. You sound like an old-time buckaroo from Billy the Kid days.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, but I've been educated enough to like Frankie Lane quite a bit.
Now, when they come in to talk to you, husbands and wives, I would imagine that you try to do both of them at the same time or just one at a time?
No, I try to do them both. It's easier.
I see.
Because you know, there's certain things that the wife wants to do for the husband and the husband wants to do for the wife, and they usually have the same questions.
Okay.
So that's the way it's easier.
All right. Well, it's a part of life, and I really compliment you for what you do. And Rex, God bless you for being on the program this morning. Anything else you want to bring out about pre-planning? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm good. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the radio. So.
All right. Well, we'll tell everybody to call you at 436-5636. You and Joel Heward at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. And again, our thanks for you being on my program this morning.
Hey, thank you, Zeb.
All right. Take care and God bless.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you. You know, why is it? Somebody call me and let me know your feelings on this. Why is it that, and I came knocking on death's door quite a few times, and the latest being about a year ago. And why is it that we always put that off? Why is it that we don't want to talk about it? Why is it that it kind of gives us a little bit of the bumpy skin and the heebie-jeebies and all that kind of stuff? Why? Why? It's all a part of life. Thank you, Rex. I appreciate you being on the program. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. You know, another somewhat of a testimonial is the commercial I do for Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, and Ryan Horsley and his staff. They have been in historic Old Town Twin Falls since 1936, and I've said, I've had some people criticize me for this, but that's fine. I'm not going to change my ways. I honestly think you need to get in there and buy a firearm for your protection and learn how to use it safely, wisely, and efficiently. I do. The police cannot be everywhere at a drop of a hat. Can't do it. And we have to learn how to protect ourselves and our families. And that's why I advocate Red's Trading Post. They've got all the firearms from Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, and Winchester. And the people working there with the knowledge to really help you find the right gun, the right firearm of your choice and what really fits you. They've got all the accessories, too. Great customer service. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. You stop in and see them today. All right, I'm going to ask you to help me for the next 15 minutes and fill in a little bit, if you would, and give me a call. And we'll talk about any subject you want to talk about this morning. I'll give you a little food for thought before I do the weather. This is so insane and so absolutely demented and whatever you want to call it. But now there are some of the PC crowd, the politically correct crowd, these empty-headed people that want to stop the use of the word criminal. I am not kidding you. They want to stop the word criminal. They say that calling someone a criminal is so demeaning and negative and disparaging. When I heard this, I just absolutely stopped dead in my tracks. And when you're on crutches and stop dead in your tracks, you have a tendency to either tip forward on your face or fall backward on your big butt. But I about fell over. They want to stop the word criminal because, it's so demeaning and negative. Can you believe where PC is headed in this country? And now they want us to be more cognizant of what we say about bad guys, people that have broke the law, people that have gone out and hurt society, harmed society, maybe even killed members in society, and they want us to stop using the word criminal? This is insanity. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to have the weather on. And call me after the weather, please. I'd like to get you on the air. Don't forget Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Oh, these are nice people. And 2 telephone numbers I want to remind you of, 438-2485 or 431-8733. Scott Gano and his crew with all the tree trimming and the pruning and the removal of tree limbs, emergency work, blowing out the sprinkler systems. Oh, you didn't blow out your sprinkler system yet? Better get it done. It's getting colder. You don't want that thing freezing up. Give them a call today. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't you go away. Here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this Wednesday, November 4th. Looking at cloudy skies for today. It is going to be a little bit on the breezy side. Winds out of the west right around 11 miles an hour. Expect a high of 37 for today. Tonight, low of 26. Kind of feels like winter has arrived. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, high of 41 with an overnight low of 27. Friday, pretty much the same. And then hopefully for Saturday, going to see some sunshine and a high of 48. That's your weather forecast for Zebedee.
Oh, she does a great job on that weather. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service is the sponsor for the weather this hour, 438-2485 or 431-8733. Caller, thank you for your patience. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Of course, they don't want us to call criminals. It would entail all of them.
I can barely. I can barely hear you, caller. And I think you said, of course, they don't want us to call them criminals. And what was your reason again?
Simply because it entails all of them.
That's right. I agree. And I'm going to call them worse than criminals. I'm not going to change my verbiage for the politically correct crowd. Thank you for your call. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb?
Yes.
Is this just a little bit too late to talk about funerals for just 1 second?
About what?
Funerals?
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, this is just a quick story of my own self. I was in my very early 40s, had 3 little children. My husband worked for a company, and they were having, for the first time in many years, a anniversary, for the men in the office, men and women, and they invited the wives to go along. And it was just supposed to be, one day to the fly over, and then 2 days for the meeting and fly home. And where it was going to be was in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited and couldn't wait to get going, got a babysitter and everything. And then my husband decided we had to go to the lawyers. And I said, what for? He said, well, we have to go make out wills. I said, are we going to die? He said, no, but it's just a precaution. I said, I'm not going anywhere if I'm going to die. I've got babies to take care of. He said, no, we have to go to the lawyers. That was the hardest thing to do, to go to a lawyer's and make a will out. And we were early, just young. And I said, I'm not going, and you can't go. And he says, no, we're going to go. So we went to the lawyers, and it scared me to death all the way to Hawaii, my first trip on a plane. Had a good time, kinda. Came home. And that was it. And we were all signed up. But I thought that was going to be the worst thing in my life.
You know, let me ask you.
To go to a lawyer's.
Let me ask you a question there, if I can, because I went through the same thing you did. Only Deanna and I took care of our wills. Oh gosh, it's been 15, 18 years ago, something like that. And when you first make that initial response that yes, we've got to go get our wills taken care of. Yes, we've got to go into the attorney's office. Yes, we've got to get this set up. It's the same thing, I'm sure, as going to someone like we had Rex on earlier with Hanson Mortuary, going in and pre-planning our funerals. It's a block ahead of us that we don't want to step over, but yet we have to because it's a part of life.
I know, but in that early age, I'm 82 now, and that scared the spit out of me. and I told him he couldn't even go, and he says, no, we have to go. And so we went, and I just shivered all the way over and all the way back, but anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Well, wait a minute. I've got one other question to ask you. You're a very nice lady, but I hate to be rude. This is not gentlemanly at all, but what did you say your age was now?
I'm 82 now, and I was only in my just barely 40s with 3 children.
Let me tell you something, and I mean this from my heart. You are the youngest sounding 82 that I have ever had on the program. God bless you.
Thank you, Deb.
All right.
Listening. I'll hang up now.
Thank you very much. Oh, my goodness, that lady sounds like she's in her 30s. Oh, it's amazing. And congratulations to her. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I mentioned earlier this morning, and I make no bones about it, I think this lesbian, gay, transgender deal is absolutely repulsive. I think it's absolutely out of hand. And I think it's a great way for the liberal left to absolutely tear apart the fabric of unitedness in this country. A Chicago area school district has been deemed in violation of anti-discrimination laws by denying a transgender student full access to the girls' locker room. Now, this is a boy. It's a boy, it's a male. And this male, and let's call it like it is, thinks in his perverted mind that he is a female. And I only am going to say that for transgenders out there, you need psychiatric help. This is a problem that parents ought to sit down immediately and consider the psychiatrist and psychiatric evaluation, psychoanalyst, everything. It's not normal, and nobody is going to change my mind on this subject. Nobody. God does not make mistakes. And this is way out of hand. Now what's going on in this Chicago suburb is that this boy, who calls himself a girl, has been put on the girls' basketball team, and he wants to use the girls' locker room and the girls' showers. The school said, wait a minute, no, we're not going to go there. We will put up curtains, and privacy curtains they're called, for you to go in and shower, you to get dressed, and you to get ready for a game. Well, that's not good enough. The ACLU said that's discriminatory against him, but they said her. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to refer to the person as he is, a male. And they said you've got to take down the curtains or you, the school district, are in federal violation, and you're going to lose all your Title IX funds. So there we go again, holding schools ransom. But what about the 99.99% of the families and parents and children that go to school, and they're being subverted now to accepting this perverse attitude, this absolute sick attitude of transgenderism? And Twin Falls School District just adopted this same philosophy that was voted down in Houston, Texas yesterday. When are we going to stop all the sickness? When are we going to get back to the basics? Male, female, and I don't know why it's so hard. It's even hard for me to talk about this because I'm so mad. But we are catering to a very minute number of people, a minuscule number. And they are demanding and they are receiving special benefits to promote their cause. It's absolutely pathetic. Your thoughts? Like I said, it's hard for me to even discuss it on the radio. It's dirty. It's filthy as far as I'm concerned. Calls welcome, 436-2244. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Well, you know, Zeb, 2.5 or less than 2.5% of the population is, you know, gay, lesbian, transgender, and whatever else.
Now, wait a minute, Randy, stop right there. Randy, wait a minute. You said 2.5%. I don't know where you got those figures, but I have many, many volumes of information on this subject right here on this desk. And a lot of people that are in the know, superintendents of high schools, professors at college, etc., people in law enforcement, they've compiled numbers that said, no, it's not like 2.5% of our population. It's less than 1%, and we're catering to that less than 1%.
Well, and I agree that it's less than what we think it is, and when we get right down to it, that is discriminatory towards the general public that is trying to do, I guess, be normal, and they're trying to change it. See, normal isn't, they're trying to change it, what normal is defined as.
Yep.
And we're here, and you know, they love the attention. They love the attention. You know, it's not normal to seek that kind of attention all the time. You know, obviously they're lacking something. Something happened somewhere in their family, whatever. And so you see, they're miserable in certain ways. They are, and the only thing that makes them happy is attention. And then they want to suck everybody else into their misery.
Yeah.
And you see, they can't be happy just living their life. You know, is every day a show?
Well, I got to go to the news, but I just want to say this to you. I'll go back to the simple words that I used before because I'm a believer in God and Jesus Christ as His Son. I believe that God does not make mistakes. And when I see people make a mockery of God through this transgenderism, etc., it makes me sick.
Well, that's the reason why this thing was, they elected in Kentucky, they elected a Republican governor, conservative, and then they shut down this thing in Houston, and there was something else that happened.
Well, marijuana was voted down in Ohio.
Yes. Those are positives.
All right, Randy, God bless you, man. I appreciate your thoughts as always, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, sir. We've got coming up. All right, buddy. Coming up next hour, we've got Rob Nikolewski with watchdog.org. Say that fast 5 times and then sit down and take a breather. Anyway, we're going to be talking about fuel in this country, fuel, energy, and don't miss that. And then also at 10:32, Peter Navarro with his book called Crouching Tiger, talking about China. Don't forget Scouse CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts. They've got 3 locations, Rupert, Hayburn, and Burley since 1949. Scouse says every detail matters with parts, sales, and service, and 3 locations to serve you. 323 East 8th Street, Highway 25 in Rupert, 518 Overland in Burley, and the big truck center for Scouse, I-84 exit 211. Please get a hold of them today. They know all about vehicles. They know all about parts and service and sales. They can and will help you. Scouse CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts. Every detail matters. You're listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call 312-0957 today. We're going to take a break for the news and be back in 6. Oh, here we go. Last hour, Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with our great friends, advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at our disposal. Give them a call, 734-6969. You know, when I make a mistake and I goofed, I want to correct it. Yesterday on the program, I gave the wrong special for the Chadwick Sports Grill. A caller called me and said, we went in for lunch and the special was different. Well, I apologize. Yesterday's special was a delicious pulled pork taco with sauteed onions and peppers and pepper jack cheese. Oh, one of my all-time favorites. And today is when they're having meatloaf topped with gravy and served with choice of potato, veggies, and super salad. I goofed. I'm sorry, but they're both good. Delicious at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks at the Chadwick today. Really good people. Let's see. Also, I want to remind you about Ramsey Heating and Electric and, of course, Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, an air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them at 678-0459. And remember, Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox can save you money. I'm going to go to the phone lines right now, and I'm a little bit worried because I think I may have forgotten how to pronounce this man's last name, and I know he's standing there with a .38 cocked and leveled at my microphone if I say it wrong, and we'll say good morning to Rob Nikolewski. Is that close?
The gun did not go off.
Amen, brother. Okay.
Yes, you got it correct.
All right, Rob, how are you?
Good. How are you? In fact, I'm based here in beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I was in Idaho just a couple weeks ago.
Well, why didn't you stop in so you could take me to lunch?
Yeah, because it's taking you to get the meatloaf special.
There you go. Thank you. Rob, it's really a pleasure to have you back on the air with Watchdog.org. And tell us a little bit about Watchdog. What do you do for that organization?
Well, I'm their national energy correspondent, and the overall watchdog mission is basically to be a watchdog over government spending and make sure that taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely. And I take that from the energy perspective, and I've got a pretty good story to tell you about today in regards to that.
I know you do, and I read this on a kind of a preface as to what we were going to talk about this morning, and I got to be honest with you. I just slammed my fist down on my desk, and I said, what in the world is this Obama administration trying to do? They're trying to basically, I think, ruin our strategic petroleum reserves, and I'll turn it over to you to tell my audience what's going on.
Well, this is probably one of these stories that it's one of those only in Washington stories does this thing make any sense. But as a lot of you viewers will recall, just recently Congress and the White House went to an agreement and reached an agreement on a new budget deal. And hidden within that budget deal was a provision in which they raised between $3 billion to $5 billion by tapping into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is something that the country has had since the mid-1970s. We've got millions of barrels of oil. Mostly it's located down in the Gulf Coast region. And it's there to basically act as a hedge, as a protection against any kind of international disruption of oil, like if there's a war or something similar to what happened in the mid-1970s. Well, anyway, it's kind of a long story, but they're going to tap 8% of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to raise between $3 billion and $5 billion so they can pay for part of the budget deal that just got passed. And so that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And I talked to a guy by the name of Ray Miller, who's in southeast New Mexico, who's a small independent petroleum producer. And he doesn't like the deal because, as he very strategically put it, the problem is that the oil was a year ago, the price of oil was at $100 a barrel, But now the price of oil is around $40 a barrel. So only in Washington would you buy high and sell low.
You know, I'm sitting here listening to you tell me this story, and I'm getting madder and madder because also along with selling the strategic petroleum reserves, a percentage of it, they also robbed from Social Security, a trust fund, $150 billion. Billion with a B. What in the world is going on, Rob, that this Obama administration is basically stealing from us to cover their mistakes?
Well, I'm not familiar with the Social Security, all the ramifications of the Social Security deal, but on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve deal, that's something that the Obama administration, as well as Congress, the Congress has got Republicans in it. In fact, they've got majorities in Congress of Republicans who went along with this deal, at least with the strategic petroleum provision of this thing as well, because they want to be able to, to make ends meet on the budget. But there are some people, including Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, which is a big oil-producing state. She doesn't like this provision in the deal, but it's already been done. But she says that the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was not supposed to be used as an ATM.
Yeah. What's going to happen, in your opinion, with energy? And I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but I've got friends all over the United States because I've been in the rodeo business also all my life. And I've traveled all over this country and Canada and, for that matter, the world. And the people I've called to, they are very, very tentative and very afraid as to what's going to happen with energy over the next 442 days of this administration. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it's probably, there's a few things you can make some fairly confident predictions about. One of them, for example, is I think that we're not going to see any kind of Keystone Pipeline deal get approved under this administration. That's becoming more and more likely. And then just yesterday, the people at TransCanada, the people who are building or want to build the Keystone XL pipeline, they sent a note to Washington saying, let's hold off on this deal, which that takes a little bit of explanation here, but it sort of makes sense. Again, sort of in a Washington sort of way, it makes sense because I think that the indications from the Obama administration is they have kicked this can down the road. They have not made a decision on Keystone for the last 5-6 years. This thing has been, something that's basically has. If it got the green light, it could get done right away. But the State Department has dragged their feet on this thing, even though every preliminary report says that doing the Keystone Pipeline deal would be something that's not going to harm the environment, that it's actually probably going to help the environment more because instead of having oil being shipped by truck, by rail, which is more dangerous, it could be done by a pipeline, which would have less greenhouse gas emissions. But the TransCanada people said, let's go ahead and kick this can down the road even further. And the reason why, I think, is because they know the Obama administration is not going to approve this thing. And they're probably, the TransCanada people think, well, we'll take our chances with the new administration, especially if it's a Republican who gets in there. They'll probably okay this deal, where it just seems that in the next 400-plus days, the Obama administration, this thing's just not going to happen.
Let me ask you something and back up a little bit as to the actual sale of 8% of the Strategic Petroleum Reserves. Now, you referred to it, and I think rightfully referred to it, as it's not an ATM. But what happens now as far as the replenishment of that oil into the strategic reserves? How is that done, or is it going to be done?
Well, they're not going to take out the 8% right away. And this is something that the proponents of this deal say, and that they point out. They say it's not going to be withdrawn until between 2018 and 2025. So their reaction to the criticism that, hey, we're selling this at $40 a barrel oil, they're saying, well, we're not going to withdraw it for at least 2 more years up to 2025. And by then, they're hoping that the price of gasoline, or the price of oil, I should say,
will go up. It'll get back up to, $80, $90, $100 a barrel. That's anyone's guess, though, because, the price of a year ago, no one thought that the price of oil would drop down to $40 a gallon. So to make predictions, it's going to happen between 2018 and 2025. Hey, if the price of oil is up $70, $80, $90 a barrel by then I guess this thing's a wash. But there's a lot of long-term forecasters who think the price of oil is going to stay relatively low for a long time because the world's awash in oil right now for a number of different reasons.
Rob, what about the fact, though, that this administration seems to be led by the nose by the environmentalists? And you know as well as I do, the environmentalists, will do anything by hook or by crook to try to hurt the American consumer with higher oil prices to turn off their four-wheeled wonder. What are your concerns about the environmental movement and green energy for the remainder of Obama's term?
Well, I think the environmental movement, what they would like to see is they would like to see, a carbon tax, any sort of tax that puts the price of fossil fuels higher, and that's therefore making the cost of renewables like solar and wind more competitive. The problem, though, is even if you buy into that argument, the problem is going to be capacity. Even if you made oil, fossil fuels more expensive to where the renewables are more price competitive, the question would be then, okay, do we have enough capacity from solar, from wind, to make up the difference? Or are we just going to increase the price of fossil fuels and we'll still need to use as many fossil fuels to keep the electricity going, to keep our cars going? You follow what I'm saying?
I do, and my question is this, according to the experts that I've talked to and good friends that are in the industry, from a turn-on light switch type energy, we are at least 35 to 40 years away from green energy being anywhere close to being dependable, and at the same time we're killing off our coal plants, we're killing off the power grids with the accessibility. It just doesn't make any sense that we don't have an energy program that is viable for our economy.
Yeah, I think that pretty much hits the nail on the head. Although I will say there's been plenty of criticism of the Obama administration's energy plan, and in many ways it's justified. But I will say in their defense that they have been fairly open to natural gas, and that's been a big bridge fuel. If you're trying to make the bridge from coal to natural gas, because natural gas burns a lot cleaner than coal does. So they haven't been against natural gas, which a lot of environmental groups have, because anything that has anything to do with hydraulic fracturing, the environmentalists across the board do not like. In fact, I could only think of one major environmental organization that is even neutral about natural gas, and that's the Environmental Defense Fund. And they get a lot of heat from other environmental groups because if you're going to use natural gas, you're going to have to use hydraulic fracturing.
The thing that scares me about this administration is a lack of knowledge or a lack of respect for some major industries in this country that we cannot do without for a 24-hour period, that being agriculture and the trucking industry. Both of those are reliant upon energy, and this administration seems not to be user-friendly to either one.
Well, I think that there's generally speaking, within this administration, I think there's a thought that they take energy for granted. And I think a lot of people, especially those who are very sympathetic to the green movement, and we all want a clean environment or cleaner environment, but I think that there are a lot of people out there who think that, they take energy for granted because when they turn on their light switch, the lights come on. Not most of the time, all of the time. When they drive to the gas station, there's always gas to put in their car. Always. Not sometimes. Always. You have to go back to the mid-1970s when we had gas lines, where we had gasoline shortages. So I think because of that, I think there's a lot of people who think that we can change to renewables at the snap of a finger. And even though renewables are becoming a bigger part of our energy repertoire. It's not there yet. And if we did snap our fingers and go to all renewable by tomorrow, we would have a lot of people stranded. A lot of people who, when they turn their heat on in the wintertime, the heat wouldn't come on. There would be a lot of people who would be driving their cars, going to a gas station when the tank is empty and the gas wouldn't be there. I think there's a lot of people who just take that for granted, and they assume because of that it would be an easy transition. It would not.
Well, and that leads me to my next segment with you, if you don't mind, Rob, and that's I'm going to call it like I see it, the idiocy and incompetency of putting all your eggs into the basket called climate change, which many of the scientists that I've talked to at major universities all across this country that have been on this program, they're going, no, the Earth is getting cooler. For the last 17 to 19 years, we've had temperatures on the downside, and a cooler environment does not bode well for agriculture, feeding the masses, and all things that people are involved in. And this administration is hell-bent on putting their hand on the thermostat and really taking away from an energy program.
Well, when it comes to climate change, that's a subject that is becoming more and more polarized. And I've written a number of stories about this on watchdog.org. Even some climate scientists, Roger Pilkey, for example, at the University of Colorado, Judith Curry at Georgia Tech University, they are a couple of climate scientists who actually believe that, yes, the Earth is warming and humans may have something to do with it. But they are considered outliers. They are considered heretics by the hardcore alarmists, as some of them are called, because they say, well, even though the Earth may be warming and even though mankind may have something to do with this, we don't know how much mankind is responsible for that. And for that, they practically get burned at the stake.
Yeah, and when you talk about this climate change and the religion of this climate change and the absolute almost putting us back into a caveman atmosphere of burning buffalo dung to try to stay warm in the wintertime, living in a cave, there doesn't seem to be any common sense in taking energy away from the world's leader. You take away energy and you've destroyed any chance for economic viability. We're going to end up back in the Depression area.
Well, and the other thing that people like scientist Judith Curry, climate scientist Judith Curry, brings up is that, and you touched upon it, about the importance of energy. If you're in a third world country, a developing country that's poor, the best way for you to get your country up on its feet and working is through energy. And that's why a lot of these developing countries turn to coal. I mean, again, in a perfect world, if a solar plant would be able to generate as much power, as much energy density as a coal plant would, then I'm sure that these developing countries would do that. But it doesn't, and that's what's something that I feel that as an energy reporter I have to bring out is that. There are realities, hard realities we have to talk about. We can't talk about, well, this is what we think is going to happen 20 years from now. This is what we want to happen in 20 years. If you're a struggling, developing nation with a lot of poor people, they need energy now. And there's a lot, I'm talking about millions and millions of people who don't have access to energy, who use open pits, basically, to heat their own homes. And so it's very easy for a developed country, a country like the United States and Western Europe, to wag their finger at developing countries and say, well, you have to go to renewables, because that's what we need to do to prevent climate change, when those developed countries are already enjoying the benefits that come with a sophisticated, all-the-above energy system.
Let me ask you one final thought, and I've got about 3 minutes left here, Rob, and I want to revert back a little bit in our conversation when you mentioned a carbon tax. There's been talk about people having to carry a carbon card and all this type of thing, and then if they exceed their carbon use for the month, having to pay an extreme tax on that. Do you honestly foresee that in the future of Americans as far as a daily activity, having to watch what they do and what they turn on?
Well, the problem with that is even if you buy that argument often comes from people who live in large cities. If you're in New York City where you can get around, and I used to live in New York, you can get around through the subway and something like that, and it's really easy to say, again, to wag your finger and say, oh, we should have a carbon tax on people who use lots of gasoline, when you don't have to use gasoline to get around if you live in New York City if you're fortunate enough to make that kind of money. But if you're living in a place like Idaho, it's very difficult. Yeah, it's how are you going to get around? If you're living on a ranch, if you're living on a farm, even if you're living in the suburbs of Boise, how are you going to be able to get into work if you're going to be saying, okay, you, Mr., Ms., average American or average person in Idaho, you're going to have to pay a carbon tax, or you're going to have a limit on how much gasoline you can use in a month because that's what we want you to do. Well, that's inherently unfair to rural people who live in rural states. And again, it's easy if you live in Washington, D.C., and you can take the metro, or if you live in New York City and you can take the subway, to say, okay, yeah, that's fine. Every American can't use more than 20 gallons of gasoline a week. Well, if you live in places like Idaho or New Mexico or Nevada, that's easier said than done.
Well, and it's absolutely not feasible. Rob, I wished we had more time, but you got to promise to come back. You're very interesting, very well educated and articulate on the subject, and I get a chance to say your name one more time for this morning. Rob Nikolewski, and he is with watchdog.org. Thank you, and please come back in the future.
It's always a pleasure, Zeb.
And I tell you one other thing. If you get back here to Idaho, I will go ahead and buy you lunch. You twisted my arm, I will buy.
Great. I want the meatloaf or the tacos.
God bless you, Rob. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Rob Nikolewski with watchdog.org. Where is the sense in this administration? Think about it. Maybe it's not a big deal to you. But these great big holding tanks called the Strategic Petroleum Reserves for America to be only used in a time of crisis and turmoil. And this administration sells off 8% at a very low price just to use that money to cover their bad business dealings in this administration. And taking $150 billion with a B dollars from a Social Security trust fund. We have, and I'll say this emphatically, a bunch of doggone crooks running this country. Think about it. I'll be back in 3.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to our last half hour. And I am very, very fortunate to have this man on our program this morning to discuss a topic and the authorization of his book called Crouching Tiger, What China's Militarization Means to the World. And I'd like to introduce at this time a gentleman that really put a lot of time and effort into this book, Peter Navarro. Peter, good morning. How are you, sir?
Yeah, my friend, I'm doing fine. How are you?
Well, I got to be honest with you. Your book came just day before yesterday, and I have not had a chance to read it in its entirety, but boy, it is very chilling as to what's going on with China in opposition to what's happening here in this country. Tell me a little bit on the premise of the book. Why did you want to write this book, Crouching Tiger?
Well, it's what I like to call a geopolitical detective story, and the question really is, that we're trying to answer is, will there be war with China? And for decades, I think nobody's really thought that could be possible. But I've noticed that over the last few years, as China has become much, much more aggressive, as it's built up its military, it's becoming a legitimate threat to our well-being here in the United States. And I think there's really no better evidence than that, Zeb, than the fact that American warships are now steaming towards the South China Sea to confront Chinese warships over these artificial islands China is building, which basically are going to be military garrisons aimed at defeating the U.S. Navy in the Western Pacific. So high-stakes poker, and that's why I think it's really important for us to talk about this. And I would stress here that it's really important for this 2016 presidential election. You know, my mission right now is to get the presidential candidates thinking and talking about this issue, and I hope that happens.
You know, when you say that, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but when you say that about getting the candidates to understand and appreciate the information that's in your book, what about the candidates? Who of the candidates do you think really has the intelligence and the mindset to worry about what kind of a threat China is?
Well, let's look at the Democratic, and then we'll look at the Republican side. If you look at the Democratic side, I think Bernie Sanders is a non-starter on this. He just doesn't think, he just doesn't have the mindset of dealing in a foreign policy realm with people that want to kill us. I mean, that's just not Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton, I would say that she's very well versed on the China threat since she was the Secretary of State. But having said that, her first act as Secretary of State was to basically roll up the white flag and say, look, China, you do what you want to do. All we're interested in doing with you is trade. So I'm very concerned that Hillary Clinton's not the right person. She is also the person, Zeb, that announced the so-called pivot to Asia. And the idea there was simply that we were going to take our military ships and move more of them over to the South China Sea in Asia. But the problem there, again, is that the Clinton-Obama administration has basically cut the number of ships. So the Democrats are not going to deal with that issue. Now, if you look on the Republican side, there's really a lot of candidates out there, but there's only a few that actually seem to have a pretty good handle on the China issue. And I would say that the three include Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Donald Trump. All of these men are students of China, and I would say, interestingly enough, that the one who probably knows the most about the situation and would basically deal with China in the toughest and firmest way would be Donald Trump. But the rest of the candidates don't seem to have any kind of handle on this at all. And if you look at the debates we've had so far, they don't even talk about this.
Right. When you look at in retrospect, as to what's happened over the last, let's say, 40 years, what on your monopoly board, starting at Baltic Avenue and going all the way around the board, what really has taken effect to give China so much power over us? Where did it start, and how did it really start steamrolling against us?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, Zeb. And the Crouching Tiger book goes through the complete history. And I would take you back, probably we could start right in 1949 when the Communist Chinese under Mao Zedong basically pushed the nationalists off the mainland, and they set up shop on Taiwan. And we've had a troubled history ever since. But I think the first pivotal act was Nixon and Kissinger when they went to China in the 70s in their ping-pong diplomacy. And basically, that was the first time we turned our back on Taiwan in favor of mainland China. We helped China throw Taiwan out of the United Nations, and China took that seat. And we began this economic engagement, I think the logic of which, Deb, was to, we simply traded with China they would somehow become more peaceful and more democratic like us, and it would be kumbaya, right? The second historical node, which I think is absolutely essential, is 2001 when we let China in to the World Trade Organization, opened our markets to them, and for the last 15 years they've basically been having their way with us economically, where they've helped shut down over 50,000 factories here, millions of Americans unemployed. Our weakness has become their strength. And so what they've been doing is basically using our essentially Walmart dollars to build up this really incredible military. And the reason why it's so incredible is not because they're so good at it, but because they're so good at stealing our secrets. So they field fifth-generation stealth jet fighters, Chengdu J-20, which was stolen from our own jet fighters, the F-22 and F-35. Their ships run on French diesel engines. Their submarines run on German air-independent propulsion technology, which is the quietest in the world. That allows their submarines to lay in wait for American aircraft carriers or Vietnamese destroyers or Japanese cruisers. And so quietly, they've been building this big force. And, of course, the worst part of the history I can tell you and share with you is since 9/11, we as a country have been totally absorbed with the Middle East and that part of the world, whereas our future really economically and strategically has to be in Asia.
Let me ask you this, Peter, and I really appreciate your knowledge on this, and pardon my naivete about some of this subject matter, but are we as a country right now economically subservient forever to China, or can we get out from underneath the rock they're holding on top of our head?
This is a great country, and the greatness of this country has always stemmed from our own individuality, our own independence. And I think that if we as consumers and we as taxpayers begin to understand the far-ranging consequences of buying all the stuff from China, which is then used against us, we can begin to change our behavior. I mean, we're coming up to the Black Friday holiday and all the holiday shopping. If we stop buying their stuff, then they'll stop using our money to build weapons to shoot at us. But it's a tough hill that we're going to have to climb. I don't want to fool anybody on this. We owe them $3 trillion now, and they're using that to buy our homes, to buy our companies, to buy our farmland. But I guess the first step towards changing that is acknowledging the problem, and to do that, we have to understand the problem. That's what I'm trying to do with the Crouching Tiger book and film, and with essentially the first book in the series, which was The Death by China,
right.
That I wrote some 4 or 5 years ago. So that's where we stand now, and hopefully this 2016 election will be a referendum, at least in part, on the China issue.
Let me ask you this question. You had to talk to a lot of people. You interviewed a lot of people. You asked a lot of questions to come with the final draft on this book. But after everything was said and done in the writing about China, are you more concerned today about China, or are you more respectful to China?
I have no respect for the Chinese Communist Party. I have tremendous respect for individual Chinese people that are working in sweatshops and breathing the dirtiest air on the planet and living basically in fear under the thumb of an authoritarian regime. But I have no respect for the Chinese Communist Party. What I do have respect for, what we should respect, is the ability of China to rise as a military power and threaten us in the Western Pacific with all sorts of missiles, mines, submarines, anti-satellite weapons, and things like that. We have an arrogance, I think, at least in some pockets of the media and in some pockets of the Pentagon and some pockets of the White House that says, hey, we're the biggest bad guy on the planet. Nobody's going to mess with us. We have the shiniest weapons, and all of that. But at the end of the day, China's catching up quickly, and their factories are booming a lot more than ours. So do the math.
Elaborate on.
Go ahead.
Peter, just elaborate on that point a little bit, because we're seeing a devastation of our military here with the Obama administration, a downplaying, if you will, of military preparedness. And at the same time, this enemy, China, is building things up. What are your concerns on a 1 to 10 scale? We're decreasing, they're increasing. What are your concerns right now about where we're at today?
If anybody reads the Crouching Tiger book, at the end we'll say it's a 10. I mean, there's no question about it. And it's not like China's going to march into San Francisco tomorrow and take over. But if you do the timelines and the trend lines, it's a matter of a decade or two, or maybe even less, that we're going to have some very, very serious issues and some very, very serious decisions to make politically about whether we want to defend our allies in Asia and maintain a presence there. And a lot of Americans, I think, don't quite understand how dependent this country is on global trade routes. If we don't have access on a fair, level playing field to the markets of Asia, we won't have a strong economy, period.
Right.
So, this is a clear and present danger. It's going to be something that's going to be with us and our children. But we need right now to begin to acknowledge the problem and take steps to address it. Instead, we're distracted in other parts of the world, and we're not willing to make the kinds of investments, for example, in a Navy that we need to do.
Absolutely. Now, I've got to really tell you how much I enjoyed one thing you did in this book that I think is very intriguing. I'm writing a book, and I'd like to steal your idea. At the beginning of each chapter, you have a little mind game, a little quiz for the reader, inviting them to read and get the answer by going in depth into the chapter. Kudos to you. That's a very interesting idea and concept.
That's the whole construct of the geopolitical detective story. I thought a lot about this based on the previous stuff I wrote, and I thought it would just be good to present the evidence and let people kind of like come to their own conclusions about that. And so each chapter, in the very short, readable chapters, starts off with a question. I mean, the first question is, do you think China can rise peacefully, yes or no? I mean, there's a lot of people who say, yeah, sure, of course they can. But then as you get into the evidence, and I look at the intentions of China, I look at their military capabilities, I look at the various strategies they use, I look at the possible flashpoints for war, and I look at the possible pathways to peace that we've been relying on, and we get to the end of that road, Zeb, and it's like, hey, we got to do something different. This sauce is not tasting very good right now. This isn't working. So that's what I'm trying to do here, and I'm sure you'll have presidential candidates coming through your state, maybe even talking to you on the radio. I mean, the first question you ask, what are you going to do about China's rise?
And I think, Peter, in fairness, if most of my audience, and even myself, without giving it some thought, with today's dangers, they might rank ISIS as a cancer that's growing and they're most afraid of. And they might even say Russia in second place, and then maybe South Korea. But I've rearranged the ranking after reading portions of your book already, and I'd say China's number one because of military and economics. South Korea is a danger point because they've got leadership that's absolutely crazy. ISIS would be third as a cancer that's growing.
North Korea.
Pardon me?
South Korea is a good
I'm sorry, I misspoke. North Korea, thank you very much. And lastly would be Russia to be concerned about, because I don't think economically they could really put forth a product on a consistent, long basis that would hurt anybody right now. I just don't think economically that's strategic. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, you did say earlier that the Crouching Tiger book, you'd just gotten into it. When you get to the chapter on the China-Russia alliance, that will probably push Russia into your number 2 position. Because here's the problem. You've got China, which has the world's largest population and the world's largest factory floor, basically getting into the next axis of evil with Russia. And I don't know if you know this yet, but Russia has the largest landmass of any country in the world, and it's also the richest country in terms of natural resources. So if you wed that with China's manufacturing might and population, that's really formidable. And the other thing that you need to know about Russia is that even though they can't bake a loaf of bread, right, they do make the finest air defense systems in the world.
True.
These are the air defense systems that Syria's going to use against us, and that China's going to use against us, and that maybe even North Korea is going to use against us. And so when you wed that, too, with China, that's a formidable coalition.
Now, about the book itself, I was blessed to have you send me a copy of it, and I'm going to finish it and have you back on the air in the next couple of weeks to rediscuss this. But what about the general public? Where can the book Crouching Tiger be obtained?
Well, first of all, there's a website, crouchingtiger.net, crouchingtiger.net, and if you go there, there's all sorts of cool things that you can download free, video and film and stuff like that. But you can also get access to where the book's bought. And of course, the best place to go if there's not a bookstore near you is just on Amazon.com. Amazon.com, and that's it. The book actually came out just yesterday, and it's running up the bestseller rankings on Amazon as we speak, and I'm sure that your readers or your listeners are going to buy some more and help us out there too. I
guarantee you it's well worth the read and the effort to obtain the book. Crouching Tiger, What China's Militarism Means for the World. Peter Navarro. God bless you, Peter. I'll be in touch, and thank you for a very good interview this morning. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, my friend. You take care of yourself.
All right, thank you. Crouching Tiger with Peter Navarro, and he really put a lot of time and effort into this book, and all the studies, all the interviews, everything, and just lays it out as to, I'll use one word, the fear that we need to have against China and what they might do for the rest of the world. Appreciate him being on the program, and I'm going to finish the book, and then I'm going to have him back on for a kind of a regathering of information and some more questions about it, and I do appreciate that very much. Peter Navarro, nice guy, really nice guy. Oh my goodness, Zeb, look at the clock. Old Wheels is sitting over there at the station going, Zeb, we've got a weather forecast to get on here. Don't forget Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. And you know, so great. They guarantee everything they sell, and of course they're your hometown meat cutter, locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years, and it's absolutely delicious. Everything they do is delicious, and when you take a beef in, or maybe a lamb or a hog, you know you're going to get your animal back to you. You can rest assured you're getting your meat back, and they are very confident in helping you with the best tasting meat around anywhere, changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather for this Wednesday, November 4th. Looking at cloudy skies for today. It is going to be a little bit on the breezy side. Winds out of the west right around 11 miles an hour. Expect a high of 37 for today. Tonight, low of 26. Kind of feels like winter has arrived. For tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, high of 41 with an overnight low of 27. Friday, pretty much the same. And then hopefully for Saturday, going to see some sunshine and a high of 48. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Gina, thank you very much. Brought to you by Don Scarrow and the crew, and they're really good people, and I enjoy having them on the air. Don Scarrow, Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Absolutely. Okay, I got to gather things up here a little bit, and I want to remind you tomorrow, Thursday, it's kind of our potpourri day. We've got about, 17, 18 different segments on. We're going to have a lot of interesting people. First hour is an open forum, then the chamber report, and then we've got interviews with the Minidoka Memorial Hospital, Dog Nation, and then Rita Ramsey. Always look forward to that. Starving to Death, and many, many more segments. So don't forget, tune in tomorrow, Thursday, for Zeb at the Ranch. I want to say thank you, and I mean this, to the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Wow. They've been riding the horse with me on this program for a long, long time. And I really appreciate what they do and how they do it. Service is the key word. They really take care of their customers. Right now, naturally, with the colder weather, everybody's thinking, look out, got to check out the studded tires, got to check out the traction tires, got to check out the tire chains, and they are busy, and they know it's a busy time of the year. Also, you need to check your battery to make sure it's going to get you through the winter. If not, you better get a new one, and they've got all the batteries for your four-wheeled wonders, and the best in brake service, too. Professionally trained technicians, they know what they're doing. Front-end alignment, shocks and struts, all of this, and yes, including all the tires for your driving. Absolutely the best. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Absolutely the best. Quick note, don't forget, coming up on the 19th, I got to get my notes over here. Coming up on the 19th of November, don't forget, it's going to be the second annual Pilgrim Pride Dinner at the Golden Heritage Senior Center, 2421 Overland Avenue in Burley. Starts at 5 o'clock on the 19th, goes till 7:30, $10 per ticket, and it's going to be a really delicious meal like it was last year, with the net proceeds, of course, going to help the Meals on Wheels. I've got a bunch of public service announcements we'll take care of again tomorrow that are coming up for the weekend, and we're going to start things off at 8:06 tomorrow morning right here at Zeb at the Ranch, and on K-Bar 1230, and streaming live on the internet, zebbell.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all your great phone calls, and remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. Zeb Bell, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.